Welcome back to another Conscious video, family. Glad you can join us. In today's video, we're going to talk about amateur versus professional. I heard a quote today that really arrested my attention, so I went and did some research on the quote. And the quote is brought to you by Julie Anderson. She said, an amateur rehearses until he or she gets it right, while a professional rehearses until he or she gets it wrong. Family, I want you to think about that because that is the driver of of the title today, amateur versus professional. Who are you? Where do you stand in the amateur versus professional? You see, one thing about an amateur versus a professional, you right away say, well, an amateur is very inexperienced, and you take I don't want to say the negative connotation of it, but we get caught up about an amateur being a rookie, but this is not what this is talking about. You see, what this is talking about, amateur versus professional, is talking about how an amateur approaches their work as well as how a professional approaches their work. Now, I'm going to break that down for you, family, right? So let's start with amateur. Based on that quote, what it said, amateur rehearses until he or she gets it right. Now, you would think, well, yeah, when you want to just keep rehearsing until you can get what you're trying to do, whether it's learning something or whatever it may be, until you get it right. Yeah, it seems like it makes sense. And I did. I have to be honest with you, family. And that's why I always continue to push you guys. Matter of fact, I'm going to drop a top five audio books because I haven't dropped it in a while, because reading and applied learning or applied knowledge is key. Okay, we'll get back to the material. So getting back to the information, yes, you know, um, being in a space in which you have an opportunity to keep practicing until you get better, you would think that'd be the ideal space. But in this quote, it was talking about a professional rehearses until they get it wrong. So we need to look at that. So let's look at a couple things. First point here that you have to look at, as far as amateur versus professional. See, an amateur is not confident in their approach to success, where a professional is confident in his or her approach to success. I know what you're asking, family. Well, why? Yeah, I asked the same question, like why? Because again, I told you I would have taken the amateur approach before and being introduced to the new material I've been introduced to, taking the amateur approach because I would think continue to hone on my craft until I become great. So the importance of a mind shift, or as I like to say, of pivoting away from being an amateur, it's about having that confidence to apply yourself and knowing I'm going to keep pushing until I can get this wrong. Okay, let's even get more granular, more clearer, more to the grassroots of things. It's all about our approach. I continue to tell you that, family. Your approach or your ideology has to be continually to grow. It has to continue to improve. Let me give you a quick example of amateur versus professional. I remember I had to learn Excel. I kind of knew it at a high level, but nothing where I was, dangerous at. However, I had to plug hours after hours of making mistakes and learning. And see, that's the point. We want to skip over the growing pains. We want to skip over the frustration. We want to skip over the continuously to be relentless and continue to plug at it until we can find out what we already know. You see, what we know is that a professional approaches the game, and a game could be work, it could be a sporting event, it can be being a mother raising kids, it can be a father raising kids. Approaching the game, meaning with a mentality. See, that's what I love about being a professional, is my mentality. You see, it's my mentality to continue to push myself to be great, continue to want to win, continue to push the family to be great, because I want to be around like-minded people. I want to talk with like-minded people, and not saying that I just cutting off the world, but talking with like-minded people keeps you on track because you can hold them accountable, and you can be held accountable. So amateur versus a professional, to wrap this thing up, is more or less of you growing yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically, of pushing yourself into greatness and pushing yourself into success. Family, I appreciate you joining the channel today. Again, amateur versus professional. This channel was built for educational purposes, so I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and we can learn together. Stay determined, stay healthy, stay mindful, and stay disciplined. Please subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter.